Okay, next up, point number 23. Complete contract details and payments rounding or progress payments spreadsheet and save under the account section within the job folder. Now these contract details and payments rounding sheet, I'll give you a closer look at that. So basically it's just coming through here and filling out all the job details, client's name, and there's some drop down boxes you can select here to see where it's at, what draft, what revision it might have been for the building plan, whether the preliminary agreement's been approved or not, pending or signed. All these have drop-down menus for the HIO contract. If we're just in the preliminary agreement, so it would only be pending, it wouldn't be signed. Contracts discussion list, that goes next. That would be pending until we actually sit down and talk to the client. We come through those next stages. And here you basically fill in all the details like contract sum. Let's say, for example, it was a $400,000 project. At 440, you put in things like the contract signing date, duration for the project, and then we come down here and we add in all the progress payments. So you can see here there's a select drop-down menu, and here I've got a list of all the items that you may have, whether it's demolition, excavation, concrete works underway, window deposits, brickwork underway, bearers and joists, wall frames, kitchen joinery, roof framing, roof coverings, plumbing, electrical rough-in, rendering, plasterboard, gyprock, kitchen joinery, tiling. There's a whole myriad of items that you could choose depending on how you want to lay out your progress payments. So let's just say we've got one here for demolition. If you want it concrete, wall frames underway. So roof coverings, plumbing, electrical rough-in, do some plastering or gyprock. I'll do kitchen and joinery delivery. We're painting 90% complete, do a practical completion, and then say a handover. So you can see there, that's how you lay out some of your progress payments. You will either have more or less depending on the size of the job. You may only have 5 progress payments, you may have 20 progress payments. Up here, you'll put in the job number, date, and then just all the details down there. Then from there, we move on to this next tab at the bottom, which is called the payments rounding sheet. So next from here, you can see where it's dropping in all these progress payments down the side here, and it's basically splitting up into costs to make up that 440. But what we do is there's more to the top of this sheet. If you come up here, we'll into some more information. This will extrapolate it a bit more. So the project was 440. What's the cost of goods sold? And that could be, let's say it's $300,000. Another example is what it's actually going to cost you to do the project. All material costs, subcontractors and everything all put together. So that shows you're going to have an estimated profit of 140,000. Now if we go back down here, you can see that's put a cost of goods section in there and basically started adding up some more of these progress payments. So another thing we can do is go in here and add in things like our PC items, so provisional sums, might be $15,000. Windows, if you've got a provisional sum cost for your windows, $30,000. You have a $5,000 allowance for structural steel. Air conditioning, maybe a $10,000 allowance for ducted joinery, $30,000. Once all these are added in, you can see it gives you total number of progress payments, saying usable income per claim. And there's another box here that says usable income per week. It's got here service fee. I won't go too much into detail with this, but basically that's once you start knowing what it costs your operation to run every single week. So when you take into consideration all your insurances, vehicle costs, office overheads, it'd say, I don't know, maybe cost you a few $100,000 a year. You can break that back down to what a weekly service fee might be. And let's just say, I don't know, as an example, it might cost you $5,000 a week to run a large organisation. And what it does down here is give you some details of what the project markup would be and project margin. And then when we scroll down here, basically has everything laid out. What the cost plus the profit equals, which is really divided down this side here to equal the total contract value amount. And again, you've got all these other bits and pieces here of what the profit would be, what the cost of goods sold are, and then all your percentages in between. So then lastly, on the last page, this is supposed to populate down here with all those items. I don't know why it isn't. Maybe there's a mix-up with the formula. But this is what you'd be printing out to go with your contract discussion list. It's basically just a one-page summary. The client doesn't need to see any of this, any of the payments rounding formula, any of the contract details. All that basically just populates straight into here. And then you can just get your admin person to type in the amount here. So if the preliminary agreement is, let's say, $5,000 amount, then you deposit, whether that's 5% of the contract value, let's say it's $20,000, and then you go through and then you just enter the payments down the side here that add up to that total 440. And now you may come in here and say, well, look, based on my estimate, we're actually going to need more at the concrete stages. So if you had a payment amount here for the concrete of say 27,000, then you may decide to make that maybe closer to $40,000 or $50,000 and then reduce some of these other payments. So really all it's doing is dividing the cost of goods sold by the profit, adding in some of the PC items and giving you a list of approximates that you can use for your progress payment schedule. As mentioned, this is really just a way of dividing the cost of goods sold and the profit, splitting it up across the number of payments and then massaging it a little bit if needed. The main thing you want this form for is really so you've got a one-pager. This is going to be printed out with all your progress payments and then inserted into the front of your contract. So when you're signing the contract, it always stipulates that you need to have your progress payment schedule in there. So this is just a one way of doing it quickly. If you've got another way that you want to actually sit down and work each individual cost out and divide it all up, it's probably going to take you a longer time. But this is, again, like I said, a quick, easy way of doing that. Okay, so back to point number 23. Once you've done the contract details and payments rounding spreadsheet, you need to save that within the accounts folder of the job. So let's go back and take a quick look at that. Really just a matter of coming up here. You want to save that as. That's where you want to open up the system. Go to the current project, if it was job 04, go to the office admin section, and then just saving that under the account section on the job. You can save that into that progress payment section right there. And that way anyone can find it, it's always there. And then when you're going to be doing your invoicing, when your account system prints out the invoices for each one of those progress payments, you can just save them in here for reference. Okay, then moving on to the next points, we're going to be talking about drafting the construction schedule, contracts discussion list, homeowner's warranty, and then getting the preliminary construction schedule and everything together, all for approval. So let's take a close look at the construction schedule video now.